Afternoon, Inspiring Talks Brighton. I thought as we have a whole month off, I would come in and I would do a few live videos over the summer holidays with just some little tips. And they are from me. I might bring in some tips from experts that I picked up along the way, but my journey in public speaking has occurred over the last, I would say, 3.5 years. And if any of you have watched my speech that I did at Inspiring Talks about a year ago, it's on YouTube, I talked about the fact that even though I worked in sales, I avoided public speaking like the plague. I was the absolute expert at getting out of having to do a speech or a presentation or anything, which is quite interesting, isn't it? When you're in sales, you're expected to be great on stage and really, really good. But I hated it. I was absolutely petrified. Partly, I think, if I'm honest, it was that I didn't really believe in what I was selling. I didn't really understand what I was selling. I was a very good account manager. I was very good at relationship management, making sure everybody was happy. But when it came to selling the stuff that I was selling, I didn't really get it. So I didn't feel confident in my subject. So I'd avoid it. I would suggest that we did it in a different way and we didn't have a formal presentation. I would cajole my boss or my boss's boss to coming in because, you know, we needed somebody more senior in the role. Even to the point where I very badly called in sick and there wasn't anything wrong with me. So don't tell anyone. Anyway, I knew when I became a business owner that I had to get over this. So about 4 years ago, I joined Toastmasters, and that's really the start of my journey. And I think the fact that at Toastmasters, you can practice your trade with no judgment, with a lot of support, a lot of help and a lot of fun. And that's really helped me. And I'm not there yet. I'm better, much better on stage than I ever was. I'm quite happy to do a Facebook Live. Sometimes I get worried about it. Sometimes I think, oh, what are they going to think about me? But then I think the biggest lesson I've learned with public speaking is to be you. And some people will disagree. Some people will say that you need to create this persona. But I think ultimately, just be you. So my first tip today really is, people ask me, how do I decide what I'm going to talk about? Well, deciding what you're going to talk about, for me, it just comes to me. I mean, if you're given a topic or a subject, then obviously it's easier. But if you're going to go and talk about something, you're going to do a Facebook Live about something, what I tend to do is look at what's happened in my day, what's happened in my week, what conversations have I had with people. And that's where the subjects come. But then how do you translate that idea into your speech? And so I'm going to talk about writing your speech. This is what I do. So if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But this is what I do. So I will come up with an idea and I will write a few bullet points about the subject. So for example, I have just been live on my Fearless and Powerful Women Facebook group to talk about motivation. Because I had a couple of clients today that I've worked with that were both talking about feeling lack of motivation, not having that motivation to get on and do something. And motivation, unfortunately, doesn't come before the act, it comes after the act. So that was my tip. So I wrote down a few bullet points, but for a live, I wouldn't necessarily follow this process. But let's say you're going to give a talk about motivation. So, 1, you need to understand how long is your speech. Now, as you all get to know me a bit better, you know I'm a bit of a stickler for time, and I think it's good manners to make sure that your speech is the right length. The audience know what to expect, and it's also you're going to keep that audience engaged. If you start, it's a bit like, now who was the guy at the royal wedding? He was fabulous. Came over from America, an American preacher. But he just went on and on and on. And I remember watching it on the replay because I can't remember why I didn't see it live. But I kept pressing the fast forward button thinking, oh, I'll be over in a minute. And it went on and on and on. And you just disengage and you get across and you start to not like that person, even though they might have started fantastically well. If they drone on and on, you'll lose them. So know how long your speech is. Roughly, it's 125 words per minute is what we speak. That's the number of words that we speak, depending on how fast you speak. And I know for me, I speak quite quickly and probably should slow down. But if you aim for 125 words per minute, that gives you a format. You need to think about how you're going to start, what's the main bulk of what you want to say, and how are you going to end. I'll go into that a bit more on some more of these videos later, but just write it down. So either with a pen and paper or on your laptop or your phone or whichever way you want to do it, write it as you hear it in your head. So don't think about the right paragraphs, the right words, the right punctuation, the right spelling necessarily. Just write it as you would say it. That's my first tip. And then when you've done it and it's finished, print it off and read it out loud. To the room, to the dog. My dog always listens to mine. Just read it out loud. And as you're reading it out loud, see how it feels, because you'll know in your heart and in your gut whether it's hitting the mark, whether it's right, whether, oh, that doesn't sound quite right. And then go back to it and change the bits that you don't need. Take the bits out that you don't need. Add in the bits that you do need. Rewrite it. You don't have to worry about making it in big print so that you could read it to the audience or anything like that. Just rewrite it. Print it out again and do the same thing. Just read it out loud. Read it out loud. For me, I would probably read it out loud maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 times, and I will time myself as well to make sure that the timing is working. Once the timing is working, once I've read it out loud a few times, put your notes down, stand in front of a mirror or put your phone on. And it's really horrible if you've never done this before and you hate looking at yourself, and I hate looking at myself. I can see myself right now. But it's really good to see yourself and imagine the audience is there and speak it. It doesn't matter if you don't remember word for word what you've said, because you will remember the gist of it. Never, for me, never ever try to memorize every single word, because it won't work and it won't sound right. So you'll find that what you wrote will change. And as you practice it, it will change again and again and again. And probably when you deliver the speech on the night or the day, it will change again, but it will be there or thereabouts what you have written. So it doesn't matter that you've changed what you'd written down to what you actually say, because you will have picked up the message that you're trying to portray. Then I would suggest record yourself and look back and watch it. Now again, that it can be quite uncomfortable, but remember, you're only showing it to you. You can delete it afterwards. Nobody has to see it. And if you go wrong, you go wrong. It doesn't matter if you go wrong. And actually, if you go wrong when you're live on stage, it doesn't matter either. Because the other thing is, nobody in the audience knows what you were going to say. So if you miss a great chunk out, don't get off the stage and beat yourself up and go, oh, I didn't say that and I didn't say that. Oh, it wasn't as good. The audience don't know. The audience have no idea what you were going to say. They will just hear what you do say. And what you will probably find is you would add in some extra bits. And I know it's happened to me a few times where I've been giving a speech and I've followed 2 or 3 other people, is you suddenly go, oh yeah, they said that. Oh, I'm going to bring that in. Oh yeah, they said that. And you'll bring other bits in, which make your speech feel even more impressive for the audience, because they know you have been paying attention to what happened before. And it makes the whole thing flow. So Don't try and remember it all. Write it down as you would say it. And then the biggest thing that you can do is practice. Practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it. And it doesn't matter if it changes as you go through, because you in your head will be changing it for the right reasons, because you'll realise that perhaps the phrase that you'd written down doesn't flow as much as you thought it did when you wrote it down. Because quite often I've found where I've written things and it looks great written down, but when you say it out loud, it doesn't flow, or sometimes you write things down that's a real tongue twister and then you can't say it, and then you feel like a bit of an idiot because you can't actually read what you've written. I think as well, if you can, speak without your notes. Now sometimes it's nice to have the notes perhaps to the side of you. If you hold them in your hands when you're up on stage, you will look at them. You will look down and you will disengage from the audience, and you will feel more nervous because you're searching on the piece of paper for where you are. And it does take a huge leap of faith and a leap of courage to do it. But the more you've practiced it before, the more you won't get it wrong on the night. And you know what? If you're coming to speak at Inspiring Talks Brighton, you know it's a safe zone. It's a no judgment zone. Nobody expects you to be perfect. And also, none of us know what you were going to say in the first place anyway, so it will be brilliant. So that's my tips really on how to start writing a speech. Now, I'm looking for my speakers for next year. January and February are starting to get booked up. We're fully booked now for September, October, November. Tickets are on sale now, so if you haven't got your ticket for September, you must come. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant speakers. But if you have been an audience member and you haven't given a speech and you haven't been a risky biscuit and you've had that little voice in your head going, oh, I really want to do it, I really want to do it, I really want to do it, please, please do it. Please book. I promise you, if you think about when I started doing public speaking through Toastmasters, I then came and did a speech at Inspiring Talks. I was a risky biscuit, then I did a proper speech, then I was another risky biscuit. I'm now running the joint. So imagine what could happen to you. Incredible things happen. I know Bradley and Sarah, you're both watching this now. I know you will both agree with me, and you're both sitting there nodding your head going, yes, it's really good. And I know especially Sarah, you were really, really nervous when you came back. Was it 3 months ago I saw you? Back in May, I think it was. You were amazing. And the feeling that you gave the audience, and everybody in the audience really loved what you had to say. And it's scary as hell, guys. It is really scary as hell. But the best things happen when you're scared. And bravery is the best medicine for fear. Absolutely. 155.5%, I promise you. So that's just my little tip today. I've got a big list on my little whiteboard here about all the different things that I'm going to talk about over August and over the summer. I'm just going to come in ad hoc once in a while just to talk about my tips. If anybody who's watching this or watches it on the replay, can you please put #replay? If you've got any good tips to share with the rest of us, please share, because that's how we all learn. And I'm sure there are some really amazing expert public speakers in this group that are watching. So please share your tips as well, and we can create some amazing people. Anyway, I'm off to get on with some work now. Now I feel a bit more motivated because this is my second live I've done that I wasn't feeling motivated to do, but I just did it anyway. And funnily enough, the motivation has come. So I'm going to get on with some work now. Don't forget, tickets on sale now. They're all on Facebook. You'll see all the events on there. September, October, November. You could book for all three if you wanted. And I look forward to seeing you in September. Bye.